quickly. Hi, Gianna. Thank you for joining this interview. Thank you for letting me interview you about making hand sewing masks. So we can get into the questions like right away. So why do you like to make masks?
So I started making masks in the beginning of the pandemic, mostly due to needing one. When we first found out we had to be wearing masks, like they weren't readily available like they are now. Like companies weren't making them. All the surgical masks were being given to doctors like they should have been. So it kind of left me in a spot where, okay, when I need to run out and get groceries or something, I don't have something. So I decided that I should make some for me and my family just so that we can be protected and following the rules. And that's kind of where that started. It started off with more just like leftover materials I had. And then as the pandemic went on and things became more accessible, then to cute patterns and like kind of getting the hang of it.
Yeah, that's great. So my next question is if you have any examples of a mask you've made.
So I know someone to school with you. I don't know if you have it by you right here. This is one that I made later on in the pandemic. As you can tell, it's a little cuter than some of the first tries that I had. When I first started, obviously, there wasn't YouTube videos on how to make a mask because no one had ever had to wear a mask before. So there's only a couple. So I kind of like followed what they were saying and made up my own thing. So they weren't perfect, but I feel like now I definitely have a hang of it.
Yeah, definitely. I remember in the beginning, it took you a while to get that first one down.
Yeah, it was like it filled up my entire face. The last messed up, but I think I definitely got the hang of it a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it comes with practice.
Exactly.
So what's some other things that you've sewn?
So I started sewing probably when I was in like sixth grade or so. I would go visit my grandma, and she actually bought me a sewing machine for Christmas one year. I think I was in sixth grade, and I would go visit her for the weekend, and I would just make pillowcases and baby blankets and more simpler patterns, just so I can get the hang of sewing and like following a line and stitching and stuff. And then I kind of did it here and there. If I wanted to like fix up an outfit, or, like crop a shirt, like I was able to do it myself. And then my senior year of high school, I actually was on the costuming for the musical. So I was able to take those skills that I had learned and kind of apply them to help out with that production.
Yeah, and I know since you sewed, I learned how to sew, especially because it was part of like our curriculum for like one of our classes. So I kind of got the basis from there, and I think it was easy to transfer the knowledge like on your sewing machine. And so like I got the hang of it too, and I started doing costuming as well. So it's like a really handy like hobby.
Because I started sewing first, and then you did costuming first, which inspired me to do costuming my senior year. So it's kind of cool how like we went back and forth and like sharing this passion.
Yeah, and it's just nice to be able to like do things by yourself without like saying you have like a rip or a button falls off, you can fix it yourself without having to either throw out like the shirt or like having to go get it fixed by someone else and paying for it. You can just do it yourself.
I know the other day I ripped my belt loop, and I was able to sew it myself, where I know a lot of my peers probably wouldn't have been able to do that. So it's kind of cool, that skill, and I can offer to like other people around me.
Yeah, and it's great that you can just make like something like a mask because of necessity, and you can just like you know the basics, so you know how to like transfer that knowledge into making something like on your own, you know?
Exactly. It definitely comes in handy, and it's a skill that I feel like I'll have for the rest of my lifetime, and I'll be able to put in different situations where I might not know the perfect way of making a mask, but I know that my skills, and I can kind of fake it till I make it until I get it down.
Yeah. Okay. The next question is, were there any challenges that you overcame while making the mask?
So I think the challenge was pretty much just being in the pandemic in the beginning, first couple of months. Like I never left my house. I pretty much just sat there with my family. So finding the supplies was a little tricky. I had to use leftover like scraps I had from other projects I did. So maybe it wasn't the exact fabric that I wanted, or the elastic was a little thicker than I would like than the ideal mask. So I kind of was working with what I had until things started to open up a little bit and I could go buy the things I actually needed. So I think it was just working with what I had and trying to make it work.
Yeah. And I know there wasn't a lot of information on making masks as much as there are now. I think like if you go to Walmart, there's just actual like packages and stuff like that with different patterns and fabric that are good for masks and the kind of elastic you want. When in the beginning of the pandemic, there was nothing.
Exactly. There was like I think one or two YouTube videos. They didn't have many views, but like it was just like I was kind of just taking what they had there and my knowledge and was like, okay, let me just figure it out, which I feel is like a lot of people have.
Yeah, and I know since like there was such a big like mask shortage, like a lot of people that did know how to make masks and were able to figure it out, like would just give away masks for free just to help out people.
Exactly. And I thought it was really interesting. I never did this, but I got to experience firsthand someone who was making masks with their mom. It allowed them to come together and then they were making a profit off it in a hard time economically because of the
Yeah.
pandemic. So it was kind of cool how people providing people with things that they may not have, homemade, supporting like local businesses, and then them getting to like spend more time with their mom, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, it's a good way to come together like with your family and stuff like that.
Exactly.
You're Wait, can you say that
Yeah.
again?
Yeah, I think it just kind of like helped everyone come together and make it like more united community with that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like everyone was a hand where they needed to.
Definitely. And lastly, can you describe the process of how you made the mask?
Yeah, so I found fabric that I had laying around, and then I kind of just looked at what a mask was, and I was like, okay, I need two rectangle pieces. Kind of did that. Did a little like a very simple stitch, put in some elastic, and the first one I made was huge. It literally covered my entire face. It wasn't the most like cute and form fitting, but then slowly as like masks have been around for a year now, so there's more knowledge on them and like patterns and stuff. I was able to kind of see the measurements actually have a nicer fabric and everything. So it's interesting to see the progress.
Yeah, definitely. And do you have any tips for me while I figure out how to make my first mask?
I would say to just go with the flow.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong as long as you think, as long as you have a nice stitch and it's intact. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. It adds character.
Yeah, and I know like when I did costuming and I like was sewing different things, it didn't really matter how it was done as long as it looked good and it
Yeah,
did its
but
job. Yeah,
as long
exactly.
as you're proud of your product, that's all that
Yeah.
matters.
All right, so thank you for your time and this interview. It's very helpful for me in my new endeavor of making a mask.